Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brothers Take podcast, the podcast where three brothers give their take on gaming each and every week. My name is Chris. I am joined once again by my brothers Adam
Hello.
and Eric.
Hello.
And for this week's episode, we want to do something a little bit different to what we usually do, which is usually we gush about games that we absolutely love. We talk about our favorite games or our favorite games in a particular genre or games we're looking forward to, or after a game showcase, our favorite games that were shown at that game showcase. And this time we decided, well, what if we did the flip of that? And what if we talked about the worst games that we have ever played? And of course, this is only going to be in our opinion. We have not played every game ever, so this is not a definitive list. I mean, a lot of people always bring up things like Superman 64 or the E.T. adventure game or something like that. Like, I've seen those kind of classic lists of like the worst games ever made. I haven't played those. They're not coming up on my list. I have to talk about, out of the games that I have played, what would be the worst game I have ever played. And that's what the brothers are going to do too. And when we were talking about that topic, it came with some caveats too. So we decided that our topics this week are going to be, what is the worst game you've ever played? What is the most disappointed you have ever been by a game that you were excited for? And then, just so that we're not completely gloom and dark, just to end on a more positive note, because we tend to more talk about the stuff we actually like rather than just rant all the time. We're going to end on a more positive note by talking about a game that we weren't expecting to like, so the flip side of it, that then pleasantly surprised us and we actually ended up enjoying or maybe even liking a lot or maybe even loving. So that's going to be this week's topics. And of course, like always, we want to hear from you guys too. So if you guys are watching the YouTube, make sure you jump down into the comments to share your take on any of those topics that we bring up. You know, let us know what you think about the games we bring up, but also how you would answer those particular questions. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, ring the notification bell for all future content. And to those of you listeners on audio platforms, you can also touch base on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and X at The Brothers Take, again, to give your take on the worst game you have ever played. But without further ado, let's jump into it. Eric, you have played more games than any of us, I think, right? So, if I'm correct, sometimes you play even games you don't enjoy to completion, and at the end then go, I didn't like any of that. But, so, I imagine, I don't know if this was a difficult question for you as to what is the
This
worst game you have
question,
ever played, in your
This is
opinion.
probably easier than your favorite. Like, what's your favorite?
this definitely would be easier than my favorite. Yeah, but it was
That's
actually.
crazy to me.
But in saying that, it was also still equally difficult
Right.
on the basis of the fact of what you've just said. Is that I will play a game to completion and go, no, it's fine, I suppose. Yeah, it's grand. Like,
Yeah.
there's very, very few games where I just go, you know what? There's nothing really here for me to keep going. So when it comes to the worst game I've ever played, that is really the basis that I had to go off,
Right,
which
okay.
was there a game I played where I just didn't clear it because there was nothing about it that intrigued me. And then I pushed it one bit further to really narrow it down, which was there a game I played that I did not clear that, in all honesty, I should have liked? Like, there should have been something there to motivate me to keep going.
Right, based on the fact that you've played games that were terrible
Right.
to completion.
So I chose a game. I bought this game on sale, and even though I watched even a review of it, and they said kind of a lot of stuff, I still got it because I was still intrigued by the kind of the world and the politics, and the kind of you'd have the companions, and depending on your decisions, your companions would like it. But yeah, when I got Technomancer, which is the game that I chose.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was excited
Neither.
about this game. I never played it.
Yeah, I don't.
Right, okay.
There is fuck all to it, to really, in all honesty, me. Like, when you're playing Knights of the Old Republic or Knights of the Republic 2, it's like, it's Star Wars, it's got really cool shit in there. But at the moment now, the gameplay is just a bit dated to the point that you kind of go, I find it really hard to get into this game.
Right.
Technomancer felt a little bit like that, but it kind of shouldn't have.
Right.
Where it's like, this feels really fucking dated, and this feels really empty, and the gameplay is actually quite boring. And you know what? With the stuff that's happening, I am just not intrigued to keep going at
Right.
all, and I should be
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because with the way this it was all presented, this seems like something
Yeah, I remember the
I sh
trailers. I thought it looked like a cool concept even.
yeah, yeah, I thought it looked class. I thought like here's another Mass Effect style game because I'm
Yeah.
always looking for that. And yeah, it was just like really fucking just so boring and bland and empty and just kind of meh to
What's the
play.
gameplay to Technomancer?
Uh, uh, do you remember playing Dragon Age?
I've only ever played some of Inquisition,
Did you ever
which
get to the combat though to that?
I did, yeah. I
What
did
did you
never
think of
get
that
to the
combat?
Oh, is it like that?
Yeah, it's like
Oh,
that. It's
I thought it
not
was going
great.
to be more
If
hack and
memory, if
slash.
no, if memory, if me- no, no, if memory serves me correct, it's kind of like that. It's
So it's
like a
more like
blend.
top down?
Yeah, it's top ten. It's like a blend of that and a blend of Knights of the Old Republic, which you might be thinking, but I like both of those games. That sounds class. No, but it's the worst version of both of them blend together. Like,
Right,
it's
okay.
just really kind of boring. It's a bit meh. Enemies are just like hit sponges. So you're like actually in Dragon Age Inquisition, where you're just kind of there for fucking ages hitting at them, being like, when are they gonna die? Yeah, so it just really didn't fucking grasp me. I think I maybe got an hour or two into the game and then went, yeah. Or I got from the main city. I left the main city and went to the next outpost, and I didn't even enter that next outpost. I just stopped.
And never went back.
I never went back.
Maybe maybe you're missing out on like the greatest story ever told in games, but it's just
Got it.
hidden in this really fucking like outdated kind of gameplay system or something.
Yeah, in
Doubt,
fairness, if there's any
doubt.
listener who's played that game, they probably will be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? This is amazing."
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty
They,
sure it got
they might be like, you're
I
on the
don't
money.
I don't think it did well. They're probably
Right.
saying I'm being too generous. They could say that.
Who made Technomancer? Do you know?
That is a good
Who's the
question.
who's the
I've
publisher?
erased I erased all of it from my brain until you asked this question. It then popped
Right,
back into my head.
right. Did you have any other ones you considered before you landed on? No, yeah, it has to be Technomancer.
Deathloop popped in my head because that was another game where I played a few hours of that.
Oh my God,
But
that
in
was a Game
fairness,
of the Year contender. My
yeah,
God.
yeah. But in fairness with that one, I was given that either be at Christmas, either because there was no Death Stranding to buy, or Dad didn't understand I asked for Death Stranding and not Deathloop.
Oh,
One of those
wait,
things.
right.
So I got Deathloop. And I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a go. It wasn't really something I was really into, or
The
interested.
developer for Technomancer is someone called Spiders. A group called Spiders? I don't know.
Oh, I think they made
Or was it
another.
that actual Spiders developed it? Because now it's my least favorite game.
I think they actually made a fantasy
Spiders.
game that I think plays the exact same way, where you might think to yourself, "Wow, the premise is so cool." Then you play it, you go, "This is actually I played that game too."
What is
Probably
it?
is. Oh, Flame Abound or Demon's Flame or something like. Go just look at I don't know the catalog of Spiders games. I don't think they have much.
Right.
Uh,
Okay.
and the premise is that you play as a mercenary who gets possessed by a demon, and he's trying to corrupt you to his side, but then you're trying to battle it. Well, you can choose to battle it, and in other words, and then you're fighting these other ice lords.
Was it Bound by Flame?
Bound by Flame. That's the name of it.
Yeah, I just found it. Okay.
I
Okay.
think I got to
Gotcha.
the end of the game without realizing I was at the end of the game, and the game was really goddamn hard. And I went, you know, what? Fuck that game. I'm not playing any more of this. So
Right.
turns out, if the game is made by spiders, I probably won't like it.
Okay. Well, there you go. Um, Adam, do you even know what the worst game you've ever played is in your opinion and in your experience of playing games?
I It's hard to know. I have played some pretty crap games over the years, but um, I'm sure there's one deep down into the early years of like maybe PSP games or something like that, or there's probably a mobile game in there that is like actually the worst thing I've ever played, but I'm probably gonna forget it.
Hmm.
but it probably would be something from the Telltale series,
Right.
and
Okay.
probably Jurassic Park by Telltale.
Oh my God. I didn't even know they did one. There's a Jurassic Park Telltale game?
Yeah, it's pretty shit.
Because I played quite a lot of the Telltale games, and in truth, enjoyed quite a lot of them. But yeah, I had no idea there was a Jurassic Park one. I don't think I would make a Jurassic Park game in that way.
Yeah, it's well, it's exactly like what to expect from a Telltale game.
Yeah.
Yeah, just those games in general, like whether it's The Walking Dead or like I remember having a conversation with when it was in college. There was this in the games dev, one of the games dev students. I was chatting to him about, and obviously they're mad into games. You wouldn't be a games dev student if you weren't.
Mm-hmm.
But we were on that conversation about whether or not Telltale games are actually games, and they're of the opinion no, they're not. I was of the opinion
Wow.
yes, I think they are.
Yeah, they are.
But the conversation did lead to the lack of interaction, and
Sure.
they don't really feed into. They're so. I don't want to get into game theory and stuff like that, but there's a couple.
I know, do go on.
Okay. So they do not feed into. I would say they don't feed into the. There's it's not so much game theory, but it's like motivational theory that's used in games called self-determination theory.
Mm-hmm.
And in self-determination theory, you've got three kind of innate needs. It's competence, relatedness, and autonomy. And I feel like the competency one is a major when it comes to video games. And that's like your ability to be able to master the game or play. Like when you're doing something, generally in an onboarding experience, they'll feed you with some sort of challenge. And then as you would try and complete that said challenge, you're getting better at it. But it's not, it's challenging to a point where there's some level of barrier to entry in terms of difficulty. It's not going to be like the most impossible thing ever. And then
Right.
once you've completed it, it's like, oh, that was pretty cool, right? There's that kind of feeling that you get from it. Yeah, I don't think the Telltale games offer that, like, at all, in any shape or
Right.
form.
No. Yeah.
And as far as autonomy goes, I don't know how much of it is in your control, really.
Yeah. It's like playing bingo. You know what I mean? Like it's a game, but it's not. A lot of it is just look at the draw sometimes.
Sometimes,
There's no skill to bingo.
well, it's. I think it's a. I definitely do consider it a game, but I understand why that particular person was saying no, it's not a
Right.
game, because it's kind of like a glorified DVD menu. So, but remember we had the Chamber of Secrets on DVD.
Yes,
Right.
and there was the little game you could play in the
Well,
special
would you
features.
call that a game, though? It was more of a guided tour of the Chamber of Secrets, right?
Yes, it was an interactive element of the special features.
Yes, you could go left or go right, and then you can click on things, and you're using your remote. And to
Yes.
and then it would animate between those moments.
Yes.
Now, I wouldn't classify that as a game. You said that
Right.
it was a game, just there. I think it's.
I did actually. I didn't even think about it,
up
but
for-
you're right. I
up
did.
for debate.
Yeah.
So I always feel like the Telltale games are like that. It's
Right.
more of an interactive movie.
Story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could say, well, there's in gaming in general, you've always had those like, remember that one that was hidden in Black Ops? Was it called Zork or Zorg?
Yes.
Something like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, well,
Those
choose
those
your own
original
adventure.
like choose your own adventure. Well, I always thought
Because Zorg is the guy from Toy Story.
So sorry, what was it?
that's
Zork.
Zerg.
Zork.
Eric.
Zork.
A Zerg? Well, either way, this one's a Zork.
Zork, right. I always thought that the Telltale games and games of that nature were an evolution of
The choose your own adventure.
the choose your own adventure
Yeah,
games, which are some of the origins of video games. So to me, it's not a case of like, yeah, okay, like games have come so far and like
Yeah.
the freedom games are like, but I always put them in that kind of genre. I was always
Yeah.
like, it's a choose your own adventure. in 3D kind of thing. That's
Yeah, and that's
really
why
what
I
it
would
is.
classify it as a game, and you know, I wouldn't share the same criticism for the Quantic Dream stuff or even the Supermassive stuff.
Which is funny because
And there's something, I think there's
there's not much
something,
more interactivity there.
but I feel like there actually is. And I think
Right.
what it comes down to is you have more character control. You know, like if you're going to choose how you're going to cut your finger off, you're actually walking around. You choose the order in which you're picking things up. Yeah, I know
Oh,
there's an
right.
element of that in some of the Telltale games, but it's just it doesn't feel as autonomous. So that's why I would say those are be the worst games I've ever played because I feel like I wasn't playing them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And but why? And why did you? Or is it just picking out of the lot? Like, why Jurassic Park specifically? Like, as far as Telltale games go, is it particularly bad in that like
Yeah,
genre, or like
Or is it because you're
what
such a Jurassic
separates it?
Park fan
well,
that
I
you're
am a
also
Jurassic
just
Park fan, but
Yeah.
that is actually just that's a god awful game. As even within
I never heard of it. I didn't
there you
know
go
that there was a Jurassic Park one.
in their catalog that's considered terrible. So they have a couple. They have Back to the Future. Do you know about that one?
I didn't know about that one.
So there's a couple you wouldn't have heard of. So they're because they're not good.
Right. Because the ones I've heard of are obviously the ones that have been you know, like
Yeah, like
The
Wolf
Walking
Among
Dead
Us.
was praised. Wolf Among Us is the best one, I think, and I think The Wolf Among Us 2,
Right.
I can't wait for it. But yeah, I didn't know about these other. I didn't actually enjoy the Batman one that they did all that much.
No, I wasn't mad on that one either. But
'Cause
they
it's
were
like,
at a
yeah.
point. I think they kind of found a better formula once they got to The Walking Dead. But I still, yeah, I didn't enjoy that, and I didn't enjoy the Batman one as well. I played. I think I played through the whole thing. And I was
I
just
played
trying
through
to
all of the
find.
first one and tried to play the second one, and that's when I went, you know what?
Yeah,
It's weird. It's weird playing a game called Batman and spending all this time as Bruce Wayne. It's just
Oh,
strange. It's a
is that
strange
is that the
choice.
worst game you've ever played then?
No, 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 no. It's not.
no,
No,
that's
because I
definitely
play.
not the
I
worst.
like from a story perspective, I got some interesting stuff out of it.
Hmm.
Not by no means like up there in the best Batman stories ever told or anything like that, but you know, I got some interesting stuff out of it. So no, wasn't even a consideration for me actually. Um, yeah, Jurassic Park, Telltale game. That's hilarious. Never knew about it.
You know, there could be another one
Was it like? Was
deep
it like?
down there.
Stand? Is there like stand still at any point so that you don't get eaten, or?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's just put the controller down.
Yeah. So, yeah. Stop playing. You know, I wasn't anyway.
Well, they don't. I don't think that they don't ever really have that level of like. So in Until Dawn, they were able to, you
You
know,
know, hold your controller
hold your
still, and it's
controller
actually
steady. Right. There's more
yeah,
player interaction in
yeah,
Until Dawn than there is in, and I think it's because like a lot of the Telltale games work on like phone and tablet and PC, and like it's so multi-platform that it's not specific, like it's not using any specific features in any of the consoles, and they run like dog shit too. So I mean that doesn't help. Like it's not a very seamless experience when you make a decision. It doesn't run straight into
no,
it.
they're
There's like
they're quite janky.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it jumps a bit. So yeah, that I would put one of those in because I just feel like I wasn't actually playing it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. For me, just probably like you were saying, Adam, and I'm sure it would be the same for Eric as well. There probably is like if someone was to be able to show you a list of all the games you ever actually played, there's probably some you've completely forgotten about, whether it was a mobile game or a PS1 game at one point or something like that. That you're like, oh Jesus, yeah, I don't even remember that. Yeah, that was terrible. So I can only go off like what I can remember. And obviously, again, this is only of games I've actually played, right? So I had two that I considered, and one of them that I'm gonna have to say is the worst game I've ever played. Um, the other one I'm just gonna give a shout out to was Transformers the game,
Oh
which
fuck
was,
yeah,
you
that
know,
was pretty awful.
that was absolutely terrible. And like
Oh, I forgot about that.
to be
Yeah.
fair, was bought for me as a gift because I really liked the Transformers movies. So they were
Yeah.
like, oh well, and you like games, so Transformers. And I get it, but there's this thing of like if if you're on the outside looking in, you don't realize that licensed games tend to be shit, you know?
And it was on the Wii too, right? So like,
I was
No.
playing. No, the one I had was on the
holy
PS3.
shit!
But the game was on the Wii.
Yeah, I remember playing the Wii version
All
of
right.
Transformers.
Um,
So so not only is this Transformers, sorry, based on the movie or Transformers?
based on the movie.
Yeah, okay.
Based on the
So
movie.
not only
Yeah.
were you bought that's the second time owning it.
Fuck off.
Because
Really?
I actually bought it for the Wii. I bought it for the Wii.
You
And
Why?
bought that game?
yeah,
No,
yeah,
you didn't.
yeah.
Are you sure?
I never remember seeing.
And you had to do like you had to basically like shake the fucking controller to transform. That's like,
Now-
that's all you do. You and he
we were-
jumps in the air and does like
All right.
I
We were
played-
living in the same house when I played.
I know,
Transformers.
and I
Yeah.
played like the first chapter of it and sold it back to the shop.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, that
maybe
explains
maybe
why
it
we
was
never
sold
saw
back.
it.
Maybe it was sold back and then I got it because like
Yeah,
it wasn't
that's what I'm
for
saying, yeah.
me like release, like it was
Yeah.
because it was a girlfriend at the time, like it was a nice gesture of a gift, like, you know what I mean. But
Emily brought up as one of the worst games you ever played. That's hilarious.
it was like, but I never finished it. I had no interest in it.
None of us did.
So-
There is a game that's actually awful, and I got to the end.
Did you? Yeah, there you go. Is that
I bet Shockwave. That was the first game that introduced Shockwave to me. I never knew about Shockwave. Then when I would have found he was in third movie, I was like, cool, Shockwave.
Can I just ask then, before I go any further, is Technomancer worse than Transformers the game?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, because at least with the Transformers game,
It gives me some perspective.
you can laugh at it.
Sure.
There's that element of enjoyment of this voice acting is shite, or
Hey, you shut the fuck up. Peter Cullen is in that game. You shut your mouth.
yeah, but you're one who's trying to do Megan Fox. Maybe that is Megan Fox, in which I apologize, Megan Fox. But either way, the delivery of the lines are terrible. So at least you can laugh at that.
It's probably
can-
someone. No, I don't know for a fact, but it's probably someone imitating Megan Fox.
Probably.
Oh,
Very
But,
likely.
But,
or trying to, I should say.
but like you see the movie's epic, and you play this game, and you laugh at it because you're just like, how the fuck did you get this so wrong? But Technomancer, you can't even laugh at it.
Yeah. Well, so that was one I considered, but for me, actually, I did kind of the opposite of you, Eric, where I didn't go by, oh, it was so bad I never finished it. I went by, I played it to completion, and as a result, I call it the worst game I've ever played. 'Cause maybe Transformers the game, if you get into it, maybe it gets better. I don't know. I don't think so, but maybe it does.
No.
So the one I went with is Lost Via Domus, the licensed Lost game. Huge
didn't like
fan,
this?
huge fan of the show, and I do think there's a world where a Lost game would actually be a very good game.
Yeah.
And I remember this Christmas, to be fair, I was getting all of the Lost box sets. So it was a very Lost themed Christmas. It totally made sense to be like, get them the Lost game too. Like, just buy lots of Lost shit. And it was exciting, but my God, they like the voice acting is fucking awful in that game. The animation is awful.
It's a good
And
idea though.
It's a great idea to make a Lost game. It's a great idea.
But even the way they
You know
were
what?
doing it was a good idea. The fact that
How do you mean?
like it wasn't actually
Oh yeah, not to
in
play as
show.
the characters.
It was
yeah,
it was
yeah.
like an extra
accompaniment.
episode nearly.
Yes.
You're playing as
No,
someone who isn't in the show. Like that's a
and
good
I think
idea.
that's the thing. That's why I actually finished it, because there was some intrigue there. There was a mystery, but the issue is, right? And like, okay, maybe you watched all of Lost and you felt like you didn't get the answers and you felt disappointed. Fair enough, right? Or you didn't like the answers that they gave you. Fair enough. This game gives you nothing. Fucking nothing. And it ends on something that makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. And because they made the game around the time of season 3 of the show, they couldn't answer anything. They
Yeah.
couldn't give you anything. It was the wrong time maybe to make a Lost game. And most of the gameplay was these little engineering puzzles where you had to slot little bits in. It was you were playing as a photographer and you were fixing panels. And it was it was so boring. to play, and every time you did one, you kind of thought, like the first time you did one, it was like, oh, this is just to break up the flow of gameplay. And then you'd have to do another one, and you're like, oh no, no, this is the gameplay. And you get to another one, and you're like, what the fuck? Why, why am I like? And it's basically that little mini game in Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's that, but you do it. There's 7 episodes, I think, in the game, and you do one of them in every episode. And then other than that, you talk to people, and then you hide in trees whenever the smoke monster is kind of coming.
I liked those bits. I actually forgot about that game as well. Those are 2 very good shoutouts because I cleared that game too.
Did you? Yeah, well, I cleared it too, and I got to the end, and I was just like, wait, what? What was any of that about?
Dude, I think I replayed that game because even though most of the gameplay was shite, there was still something about it that I kind of went. I really liked the smoke monster bits.
Really?
Well, I thought there was no other way you could do the smoke monster at the time other than what they did, which was taking something directly from the show, which was them hiding in those those bundles of
Yeah, no, I
trees.
get that. I honestly think if you talk about this game, it sounds better than it is.
Oh yeah, it's awful.
This should be.
Not
I
only
think
is it awful.
This is another topic I think that we'll need to do at a future point. Is to like
What do you mean?
pitch what if they were to do a Lost game now? How should
Yeah,
it be?
yeah. Oh, you
Telltale.
like there is so yeah. Telltale. Well, actually,
To be honest,
at that
it
time,
probably would be. Yeah.
at that time, Telltale would have been a good fit actually. Like that style of
Don't know if they were around,
making
but yeah.
decisions on the island and stuff. But no, I don't. Sorry, yeah, I don't mean. What I mean is in the PS3 era
That style.
or PS4 era, it would have fit. Maybe nowadays you'd want something a little bit more explorative of the island or something like that. But yeah, like I mean, you could definitely do a Lost game, and I'm a huge fan of Lost. I loved Lost. Many people didn't. Many people did, but yeah, the game the game was just not well executed.
That was
Good
your
ideas,
that
but
series
not
was
well
your Game of
executed.
Thrones.
It was.
Yeah.
It really was actually. It really was. Didn't Telltale do a Game of Thrones game?
Yep. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
There's
Was that
another
one-
one. There's
was
a,
that one
there's a
any good?
sci-fi show called The Expanse, and Telltale did released one about that as well. recently.
Jesus, how many fucking games have they done? So many. But anyway,
I don't know how they keep get like fair play to be able to get all the rights and licenses to be able to.
I think they went to them, to be honest. And
Yeah.
because they're able to spit them out so quickly.
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And they obviously, I mean, they have a fan base. Their formula works for people. People who like Telltale games will probably pick up nearly each one. And they're very easy. Like I will say that they're very accessible games. Like they're very easy for someone to jump into and just play, quote unquote. You know, whatever that means for people. But yeah, in terms of this topic, I hate to say it, but I have to say I think Lost is the worst game I've ever played, which really means that
Probably
it's
is
not
the worst out of the 3, to be honest.
well, but it's not the most unplayable game ever. Like you could look up a list of like worst games, and
Yeah, they're
can
genuinely
get a lot worse.
broken kind of
yeah,
experiences.
which means that we've had pretty good gaming experiences overall. I think when you start looking at what we're calling the worst games we've ever played, you know.
I'd compare Lost because it's like 7 episodes. Lost is almost like the King Kong game in that it's not now the King Kong game is better, obviously. But-
Obviously,
but
It's a
it's
good
quite
game.
a short it's quite a short game.
yeah.
So even when you clear it, you go, well, that was a hunk of shit. Probably spent like a couple of evenings, maybe,
yeah.
playing it. So it's
Yeah.
not quite like So at least you didn't like spend 300 hours playing a game and then went, well, that was all a load of shit.
I would never spend 300 hours playing a game if I was thinking it wasn't good. I would never ever do that. But
Actually,
what I do want to know then is because the next part of this sort of question was, what's the game you've been most disappointed by? Now, I will say with Lost, I was disappointed because I was a huge Lost fan and kind of thought, oh yeah, this could be really good. But I won't say that it's the game I was most disappointed going in, because I think you need even more excitement going into something before you're met with that kind of, oh well, this is the most disappointed I've ever been.
Yeah, like it's
by a
one of
game.
those things where it's like, well, this is going to be an obvious hit for me. That kind of
Yeah,
situation.
like this is like I can't like I was looking forward to this in the lead up to this.
I don't care what
couldn't wait
anyone
for this.
says.
I kept an eye on the release date for this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you play it, and then you're like, Oh,
Not only do you
I
play it, you play every part of it. You're trying to find. It's like, no, deep down, I swear to fuck, there's greatness in here.
I swear there is. I swear. Okay, Adam, I feel like you're alluding to something very specific there. So, in terms of the games we have been most disappointed by, what game were you most disappointed by?
Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oh, wow, 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 wow. It's
Oh,
dangerous to have a episode called the worst games we've ever played, and in there somewhere we mentioned that, to be honest,
Yeah,
is
because
it?
this is a beloved game.
I thought you were gonna say Skyrim, to be honest.
Yeah, could you imagine? Skyrim's board game, perhaps.
So I love and hate Skyrim, as I love and hate myself.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
just 5.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That
I mean,
is-
the excitement levels for
Oh, that's ridiculous. I mean,
Microsoft 5 was through the roof, like.
Metal Gear Solid is the reason I've stuck with PlayStation the whole way through.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's like it's why you would buy the next one because you know there's going to be a Metal Gear on it. And
Yes.
obviously that kind of relationship fell apart towards the end of the PS3 era. And there was a lot of kind of Peace Walker as well. It was just a bit kind of it's not what I want from a Metal Gear game. So there was many signs leading up to MGS5 perhaps not going to be as great as the getting rid of David Hayter, for example. But even with all of those decisions, you're like lying to yourself. It's like, no, it's fine. It's fine. He's probably going to surprise us, this Kiefer Sutherland guy. You know, he's going to give us one hell of a performance.
Yeah, yeah.
It says like what 10 fucking lines in the whole game. Like, what was the point in that?
Yeah.
And then there's a cool, like there is actually kind of a cool I won't say story, but a very obvious reveal, but it's a cool way that they could have been a reason why they did a recast, you know.
Yes. Yeah,
And
yeah.
they could have brought David Hayter into it, and that
Yes.
would have been like, okay, that's kind of cool. But no, they didn't do that, so there was no fucking reasoning for doing that whatsoever, other than creating beef. Yeah, I was actually thinking about it earlier, and I was like, you know, in the Metal Gear Solid subreddit, that game does get a lot of praise. 5 is loved.
Oh, yeah.
5 is,
Yeah, yeah.
is loved quite a lot. I'm very tempted just to go on and ask people, like, what am I not seeing? There's something here I'm not seeing, because the game got pretty high scores.
Yeah.
But it's just, it just doesn't feel like Metal Gear Solid, like in any capacity. It feels like maybe a Far Cry game or something.
There's certainly
something
like a
else.
Ubisoft
Something else with
vibe to it.
but you've added like a Metal Gear mod to it or something. Like
Yeah,
it doesn't. It just
yeah.
doesn't feel like, especially like 5. Now I don't actually consider that to be Metal Gear Solid 5. I consider Peace Walker to be Metal Gear Solid 5, because that feels more like a main entry to the game, the series, than 5
Yeah.
actually does. But in all honesty, I don't consider either of them. For me, it's 1,
I
2,
don't
3,
really-
4. That's it.
Yeah, I don't really either. Like for me, it is like when I say you need to play the Metal Gear Solid series.
Stop after
Generally,
4.
in my head canon, it does mean 1, 2, 3, 4, and then but there could be some like really like hardcore purists out there who are like, no, it starts at Metal Gear actually. Like you need to play those
Sure.
two, but I'm like, maybe it's just because of that Metal Gear Solid was my first exposure to the series, and in that I just got this. It felt like a New Hope in a way, where it's just like you get a sense that there's a history. And they talk about these other events and these other characters. And I never felt the need that I need to see them. I totally understood the history with Snake and Grey Fox from what happens in Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah.
And then when you play 2, 3, and 4, they feel like they all connect and there's a connective tissue. Even though at one point you're like, how does 3 fit into this? Like, because it's back in the 60s. And okay, I get it. They're explaining who this big boss guy is that they've always been talking about. But other than that, how is it ever going to fit in? And then you play 4 and they find a way to bring that all in, and you go, oh shit, you know what I mean? And it's like, you just can't make any more after this. You tied up everything as far as I was concerned, really, and had like the greatest finale. You know what I mean? Like it wraps up so fucking beautifully in MGS4 that it's like, just as much as I love Metal Gear Solid and as well as excited as I was for MGS5, especially in all the trailers, the promos, the lead up to it, there just maybe shouldn't be another one. You know what I mean? After
Yeah.
4.
But it genuinely, especially those trailers, like it seemed like there was another story to tell.
It did.
Those
Yeah.
trailers were incredible.
I watched them so many. I think it's the first ever YouTube video that I found a way to download so that I could watch it offline.
Yeah. And I
Loved it.
think the release of Ground Zeroes was not great. That
Oh yeah,
whole thing
yeah.
really soured the whole thing. But I actually do think Ground Zeroes is a better game than The Phantom Pain.
Right.
There's actually, it's better directed. The
Mhm.
cutscenes are better. The performances in it are better. The things you can do in the game is essentially all you're ever going to do for the rest of the game anyway. Like, I know of course there's extra shit. There's always is extra shit, but just from the core game loop, Ground Zeroes gives you the entirety of the Phantom Pain. You're going to be doing that 20 times.
I just got reminded. I completely forgot about Ground Zeroes.
So you paid €30 for that?
Yeah.
I just got reminded. Yeah, I paid for that. €30. So fucking excited. Metal Gear Solid. Let's go, man. And when I finished it, as in I finished the story mode, and they're like, yeah, but there's more stuff to do. I remember at the time, and I had no background context or anything else for whatever else was going on behind the scenes or anything of this, right? This is just literally me at this point played this game after paying for it. At a point where I wasn't really buying, I hadn't bought a lot of games.
Mhm.
I didn't spend my money on a lot of games yet. Um, I remember I said, take me out for dinner next time you fuck me, Kojima. And again, I had no context as to, the drama that was going on behind the scenes or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I just felt like I'd paid quite a lot for a very, very small experience.
It was a
And
demo.
other people were like, yeah, but there's like loads of other shit you can do. And I'm like, yeah, that's not why I play Metal Gear Solid. That is absolutely not why I play it, you know?
Yeah, and I mean there was always extra things you could do in Metal Gear Solid, but it was always in the context of the story.
Yes,
And
yeah, I will.
it's during
In
the
the
story.
second playthrough,
Mhm.
I'll go and silence the people and put them in the locker and have the fun and kiss the poster and all that stuff. I'll kick the ketchup bottles.
Yeah.
I'll put bombs on Fat Man and blow them up. I'll shoot Ocelot in the head and cause a time paradox. I'll do all that stuff in the second playthrough. But for the first playthrough, I want just my classic MGS story mode with boss fights and things like that. Where was the boss fights, lads? Where was the boss fights?
Yeah,
What happened?
there's nothing. There was just nothing. I actually ended up playing the whole game exactly the same. And I know you could play it any way you wanted to, really.
Mm.
Right? But that's not what made Metal Gear Solid the series so interesting. What made it interesting was it was like Legend of Zelda, but kind of packaged up like James Bond, nearly. And each boss had a very particular quirk on how to defeat them. And that's what
Yes.
made the Zelda games so fascinating, as well as the dungeons and all this kind of stuff. So you're in a giant dungeon, and at the end you'll have to fight a boss. It was Zelda. And I suppose like 5, you could say, that's the direction, like Zelda ended up going that direction, because I would say Breath of the Wild
Yeah.
lacks good boss fights. Like it really does. There's no
Maybe
quirk
open
to them.
world is the end of good boss fights.
Yeah, it definitely takes away. It's something else. But at least Breath of the Wild, like I think the boss fights are crap in it. They're not good. But
Okay.
the world is great. Exploring
Right,
the world,
yeah.
there's lots to do in it, and it's very fun. In fact, Breath of the Wild is not really a game I would say you have to clear the story in. You really don't. You have just as much enjoyment out of just doing the side stuff in that game. But the Phantom Pain has nothing to do in the world. The world is empty. There's nothing to do in it.
What are you talking about? You get to
The
like
horse can shit on the
You
road.
can
There's some shit in the
run
road,
around that place for fucking ages before you come across maybe a convoy or maybe a little outpost. And
That's what I'm saying.
you
You know what
don't.
I mean? You got to scope
But
it out. You know.
if you take those little outposts out, there's nothing I found was nothing rewarding for doing that. You don't really get anything. Now you could capture people and build up your base and stuff like that. It's so weird. It's such a it's not I never felt like when I played Metal Gear Solid, it's like, you know what this series needs? An obvious direction for Metal Gear Solid to go in is actually what Naughty Dog was doing with Uncharted, and that is focusing, like, doubling down on your characters, and like, because Uncharted 4 is such a mature direction for the series.
Mm-hmm.
Like the performances in that and the stories they're trying to tell there is very, very mature. Like, that's an obvious direction to go in. And he was obviously trying new directing techniques with MGS5, and I think the cutscenes are actually pretty well done for most part. The ones that are in Grand Zeroes, at least, are really, really good.
But he obviously didn't want to make Metal Gear Solid.
Clearly.
You know what I mean?
Because when you left him alone, and he goes off and does something like Death Stranding, like, that's something that now it's never going to be to the level that Metal Gear was, but it is actually pretty interesting. It's he has many ideas.
He does. I think I think it's clear that he was done. He had finished the series.
Wasn't Metal Gear Solid supposed to be the end?
Every single one was supposed to be the last.
Because he
one.
retires at the end, right?
Metal Gear Solid's the last one, then Metal Gear Solid 2 is the last one, then Metal Gear Solid 3 is the last one, and then Metal Gear Solid 4 is the last one. It's like, yes.
I'm so glad Metal Gear Solid 4 was the last one.
Yeah, it's like, Shiva, of course Metal Gear Solid 4 is the last one, because Metal Gear Solid 1, concludes, but it still feels like it's just the beginning.
Because you want more. You want more.
Yeah. Metal Gear Solid 2 ends on such a cliffhanger. It's the equivalent of saying The Empire Strikes Back is the last Star Wars movie. Like, no.
I need to see where that goes.
Yeah, we need to see where this goes.
Yeah,
Metal Gear Solid 3 then is the equivalent of saying Phantom Menace is the last one. It's like, no, we need to see where this is going. And then you have Metal Gear Solid 4, which is your
big finale.
Return of the Jedi? If we're keeping Star Wars.
Return of the Jedi. Because anything that came after that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Exactly. The Phantom Pain is this Disney saga of too much studio interference. Okay. I think we could all share in the disappointment of MGS5. For us personally, other people seem to love it. Eric, is it the most disappointed you've ever been by a game?
Yeah, that's why I haven't really been saying much. Adam's been saying fucking everything.
He's ticked all your boxes there.
Yeah, that's exactly the game I was going to say. Honestly, like, thinking back at the game, I'm like, this game would probably be quite good if it was its own thing. If it was...
Right.
You know, you make your character to start, and then you never play as that character, and then you're like, well, clearly my character got plastic surgery, and I'm playing as the character I made.
Yeah, I didn't understand why that was supposed to be like a twist.
Yeah.
So fucking obvious.
For anyone who didn't find it obvious.
So I actually, looking back at it, I'm like, actually, it was so much better as a game. If you took out the Metal Gear and all the Metal Gear Solid references, if it wasn't Metal Gear Solid, essentially, and it was that you made a Black Ops Cold War agent. You're going behind enemy lines because the Russians are dealing with some new weapon. You have to find out what it is. You then meet Quiet, and it turns out that they're making super soldiers. And that's why you're building up a base, because you have to try and then getting allies through the people who are under Russian rule. So you're not capturing a random Russian, be like, hey, work for me. Okay. And it's like, why would they do that? There's no motive. Like, it's just... that's just obviously nitpicking, but as a game...
Well, I just don't understand why they weren't... The way they were beating around the bush a bit and just, like, remove... all the gameplay that's in it, right? Remove all of that. And, like, why aren't we building Outer Heaven? Like, why aren't we leading up, like, just going straight into the back door of Metal Gear 1? Like, that's where the game should have ended, was Metal Gear 1.
That's what we thought was going to happen.
It's technically is that, right? There's actually beauty in there with the beginning and the very end, right? The beginning and the very end, there's something really interesting there. And everything in the middle is like, I don't understand why this exists. Like, I get it, but it's so prolonged, and I don't care for it. That it should lead up to your final boss fight is against Solid Snake. And you bring in David Hayter. And you lose.
How amazing would that have been?
Yeah, it would have been great.
And Grey Fox should have been in it. I feel like there's been a lot of neglect for Grey Fox, and I don't like it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
The guy
Just
was the best in Foxhound, apparently. He was the best. Why is he not in there anywhere? Why is Miller playing such a huge role in that era of Metal Gear? I don't understand, man. I don't
yeah.
get it.
No, I don't, and I didn't like the inclusion of Metal Gear because in my head you don't need metal. This is gonna obviously sound weird, but you don't need Metal Gear in a Metal Gear Solid game, especially when it's the past.
I think you do,
Because
but they could have done it another way.
but it
Like
could
you
but
could be
no, but it
building the
could have
Metal Gear.
been yes, it
Yeah.
could have been you building the Metal Gear because of the
Right, as opposed
inspiration
to you have to fight a Metal Gear.
rather than yes. So instead
Yeah.
of so the plot of it now is you're building Outer Heaven, you're building your Metal Gear, and you're becoming the enemy that the world needs at that time. That
But
you're
not the one
creating.
it deserves.
Yeah, right? Like, but yeah, Kojima didn't want to make it, so he kind of went, here's something enjoy.
Yeah, well, I think he was inspired by the likes of Pokemon. I think, he wanted to make a game where you go out and collect things.
Yeah, I see you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like goats and shit. Fuck
That
me,
does
some
work better.
shit fucking quests in it.
That does work better handheld though, which was why I think Peace Walker
Yeah.
did so well.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Peace Walker was actually, I think, the first game ever where I saw Snake cry.
There you go.
I remember I got to that moment. I was like, this is a powerful, emotional moment.
Doesn't he cry in Snake Eater?
Does he cry in Snake Eater? Maybe he
He
does.
does, yeah, he does. But it probably maybe
Was
it
it
was
more of a
captured better
subtle,
in.
like a subtle little tear?
No, I think it's really overacted in Snake Eater actually.
Oh,
He
Is
like
it?
really like he's really trying to wipe the tears away, you know? He's really
Oh yeah. I mean, like
he's really going for it, you know?
But isn't it like because you could hold the shoulder button to see from his point of view, and if you do, it's all like blurry because his eyes are like I thought it was actually quite subtle. There was a moment there where you don't know he's crying until you look through his eyes.
I don't know. It's not ringing a bell with me. Maybe it
Okay,
is.
I think
don't
I'm
know.
gonna have to play
I
I
that
really
remember
do.
again.
that bit. I just remember
Will they
Peace
put that
Walker-
in the remake? That's.
I guess we're playing Snake Eater again. Let's do
It'll be
it.
better than playing Phantom Pain, that's for sure, because you have just vast swaths of empty land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's very good attention to detail for gameplay in it. But
Yeah, like the shooting and the CQC side of it is
It all
very.
plays well.
It's very
It all
polished.
plays well.
That's a
Plays well.
massive improvement over 4 in terms of the actual.
Yeah, 100%.
gameplay
Which is
side?
what people liked about it.
Yeah.
It's just
as a
not what
Metal
we were looking for.
No, when you're picking up a Metal Gear Solid game, you're expecting the Metal Gear Solid characters and story.
Yeah.
Not in this game.
It was on my.
I think I can
It's
guess
ver-
your most disappointing game. Maybe.
I think you can.
Yeah.
So MGS5 was absolutely high up on my list in terms of, especially with how much I was looking forward to Metal Gear Solid. But I think the wind had been taken out of my sails a little bit after Ground Zeroes anyway. My excitement levels had gone way down after Ground Zeroes. I'd forgotten about that. To be honest, you brought it up, and yeah, because I forgot that. Yeah, I bought it, and yeah, I was very disappointed by that.
Yeah, because I think with Phantom Pain, you played the hospital, and that was it.
I played a bit more than that, but
Oh.
and I've tried, and I have tried since replaying it, and I just it's the structuring and the layout of it. I just can't get into it. But no, the most disappointed I've ever been by a game, really, because
Got an Adam guess?
No. Go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead and guess.
My guess would maybe be Arkham Knight.
No, I love
Oh,
Arkham Knight.
You love Arkham
What
Knight?
is-
Oh, okay. Surprise.
I've said on this podcast many times I fucking love Arkham Knight. I
Okay.
love Arkham Knight. Are
Wow,
you kidding
okay,
me?
you are really,
I am-
really wrong there, Adam.
I don't know, I-
the Arkham game.
I just
I'm a
personally
st-
put
I'm-
those two games up side by side as like two of the most
Okay, well,
disappointed in the
Arkham
series.
Knight, no, is better than Phantom Pain. By
I
fucking
am
far.
in the minority in the world where I am a stark defender of Arkham Knight, and
Okay.
I can look past the Batmobile because I think everything else it does is absolutely exceptional, top tier Arkham stuff.
Okay.
But I understand why the Batmobile is obviously a huge like it drags it down so much for so many people. No, the most disappointed I've ever been by a game is Final Fantasy 12.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
You have no idea how excited I was for that game.
yeah.
At this point in time, I only experienced Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 10.
The two
right?
best in the series.
Yeah. So in my head, Final Fantasy is the best series. They are the best games ever. They tell the best stories. They've got the best combat. It's all turn-based combat. I didn't look into this enough, right? So in my head, I was, and then I could see, and I don't know why I didn't like look at the other numbers. So, and I had seen the opening intro cutscene to Final Fantasy VIII because it was included as a bonus disc on Final Fantasy VII.
Mm.
And that was like the most badass fucking video ever. You know, Squall and Zephyr fighting each other and like the opera music and lightning and shit. And I was like, Final Fantasy is the coolest fucking series ever, and they tell the best stories. So I was looking at the magazines for Final Fantasy 12, and it kind of looked like Final Fantasy 10 to me. I was like, oh, this is gonna be fucking amazing. And then I could see I was watching like the trailers and the lead up to it. I heard people talking about it that it's gonna be like Star Wars. It's very Star Wars inspired. I was like, I fucking love Star Wars. Are you kidding me? And then the game came out. It was getting 9 and 10 out of 10 across the board. I was like, right there. That's it. Final Fantasy. Best series ever. And it was the first game I ever bought with my own money. I used my birthday money to go down into GameStop, picked up for myself, really like chuffed up myself, proud of myself. This is the first game I've always like played my brother's games, and this is my game. I bought this one because I loved these games. I've never been so disappointed in my whole life. When I went home to play it, like, oh, it's my birthday and I play Final Fantasy, and like the opening cutscene was amazing. Like, I'm not taking away from that, by the way. Cutscenes of Final Fantasy 12 are amazing. And I know lots of people love this game, but it was not what I was looking for or what I thought I was getting at all. And essentially, it looks like and plays like an MMO, which I don't like, without the thing that you maybe would like in an MMO, which is that you can play with your friends. It's just, it's like a bad offline MMO as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
All these little lines that point at the enemies and stuff. It was like way less immersive than any of the Final Fantasies I'd played before. And it gave me this realization that just because a game it was the first time basically that it was like, just because a game looks good doesn't mean it's going to be good. And also, my blinds are falling. And it was also the moment I realized not all Final Fantasies are good. Then I started looking into the other ones, and I realized, oh shit, this is a hit or miss series. This isn't
Yeah, and I would
just
say
like definitively the best series ever.
I think the series actually
it depends on which one you play.
It got pretty bad after 10, really. I think every Final Fantasy after 10 is very, and I don't talk about remakes or remasters or any of that kind of stuff, just mainline series. For me, it's a huge miss. Every single one of them.
Right, yeah. And obviously everyone is different. Like, people will latch on to different ones, and people do love 12, but it never gelled at me. I've since gone back, tried to play the Zodiac Age, because people say it's an incredible remaster and it fixes any of the issues. But my issues are the game.
It's
voice acting.
Your issues are Vaughn.
Vaughn's not the only issue, but he certainly doesn't help. He's absolutely one of the most, like, he's so unbearable. He's an unbearable protagonist. I can't stand him. And then there's something weird in the voice acting as well, where it all sounds like it's going through a weird filter.
Mm.
Like, I would say the quality of the voice, not the voice acting itself, but the quality of the sound in the voice acting in Final Fantasy 12 is worse than Final Fantasy 10. There's some weird, like they're talking through a phone or something. Like, there's a weird filter. And then I hated the gameplay. So that was a game I've never finished it. I was trying to keep going because I was like, but the story is going to grip me. That's what's going to grip me here. And it never did. I could not get into it at all. And then I've looked it up since, and to me it looks like it lacks those big Final Fantasy surprises, those big twists that you look for and stuff, and it's more of a straight political drama kind of thing. And I'm like, it's not really what I look for. So yeah, it just sticks in my mind as the most disappointed I've ever been by a game.
Isn't it weird that they felt like they were trying to fix a problem with their gameplay ever since 10?
10's gameplay is so good.
I know, there's nothing wrong with it.
I rebought 10 again for the Switch because I'm like, oh, that'll be fun to play on the go too. Because I love
that's your
game.
Skyrim.
I fucking loved 10. I wouldn't go that far. But anyway, that's the you should remember. That's the most disappointed
That's
we've
hilarious.
ever been
What's the first
by
game?
games that we were excited for.
What's the first game, Eric, that you've purchased with your own money?
Uncharted Drake's Fortune is the first game I purchased with my own
What?
money.
See, like, what a
Interesting.
banger.
Fucking interesting.
Like, what? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, that's, what a great start to, oh, spending my money on games is worthwhile. Whereas for me, it was like, well, I better hesitate from now on. I better fucking hesitate.
Yeah, maybe that's also why I give so many games
I go,
Mine
a
was
chance.
Pokemon Yellow.
That's
Nice.
not bad either. Like I can't say shit. I tried to play Pokemon. That was on the Game Boy, was it?
Yep.
I tried to play that. I couldn't get out of the first town. I didn't know what the fuck to do, so I stopped.
you were
That's a
probably too
proper-
young, to be fair, to, like,
That's a proper RPG, you know.
yeah, yeah. No,
Actually,
to be, like,
if you go back and play it now, though, you like it's actually is such a dumbed down RPG, but it is the perfect my first RPG experience for a kid, because
Yeah.
it is quite dumbed down in terms of what you can do in it. But
I know that a lot of people love Final Fantasy 12, especially within the Final Fantasy community. But if you're to put those three games up there now as the first games we ever bought, Pokemon Yellow, Uncharted, and fucking Final Fantasy 12, like you guys have a much better the first game I ever bought with my own money story in terms of like in the history of gaming,
Yeah.
Fuck's sake. Anyway, on the
and
flip
then
side,
your other story was buying. Now that's obviously not the second game you ever bought with your money, but the other story of you spending your money on a game in this episode is Ground Zeroes.
I know. Maybe I should stop.
Stop playing
No,
games.
but do you know what? Sometimes it happens the other way around. So on the flip side, what's a game that you were, and we won't spend too long on these, but what's a game that you had absolutely no excitement for, and then when you played it, you were actually pleasantly surprised by it, and you actually really liked it? Like, what was the most pleasant surprise game you've ever played? Eric, I'll come to you first.
Obviously I can't say Infinity Blade because I was actually excited to play those two games.
Right.
I never played the first one. I didn't play 2 and 3, but I was excited to play them because I've seen
You
them.
just wanted to mention it again, did you?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention it again. That's why I was laughing. Right. So, games I was quite pleasantly surprised at. There are three that come to mind,
Right.
and I'll mention all three of them. I'll let you ask me about whichever one you want. One of them was free on the PlayStation Plus 1 month. One is on Xbox Game Pass, and then the one I bought for like between 10 and 20 euro. So I think the first one on that list is Spec Ops: The Line.
Oh, wow.
Very
I
surprising.
kind of just I just kind of downloaded it, decided to give it a go, and actually, that's such a good fucking.
That's a nice surprise. too.
That's a really
Yeah.
nice surprise. That's actually quite a good story.
I think I walked in when you were playing it, and I was just chatting to you, but whatever moment you were at, I was just like, that was pretty cool. And then you're like, yeah, it's a pretty good game actually. It's like, oh, okay. And then I was like, I gave it a go. Then I was like, holy fuck, that's a ridiculously good game. Like
Yeah.
it's not an amazing game to play necessarily. Like it's pretty bog standard. Like I say, it plays
It's very, but like Gears almost. Like it's
Yeah,
very
like-
kind of.
a Gears copy mixed with like not so good Splinter Cell Conviction kind of. Yeah, the gameplay itself is not great, but the actual like what happens in it is really
It's a-
fucking good.
Really good anti-war story.
Yeah.
Really good. The next game then, where I bought it for like cheap, I actually bought it around the same time as Technomancer. This could be another reason why I just didn't bother with Technomancer, because this game was just so surprisingly better, which was the Mad Max game.
Oh yeah, another
Oh, yeah,
fucking wild surprise. Again,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I walked in on you while you were playing that. And I was like, wow, that looks pretty good. And you're like, yeah, it is actually. And then I went and got it. Turns out
That's as much
it's
as
very
we get
good.
out of Eric, though. Like, Eric could be playing like the best games ever, and he's like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
that one was also
the-
pretty surprising.
Yeah, that was
That
actually really
that actually
surprising.
came out the same day as Phantom Pain. Yeah, the choice
Did
between
it?
Mad Max and Phantom Pain. Yeah,
Wow, yeah, Mad Max would have been the way better choice.
yeah, I think so.
Whoa.
I think so.
Well,
yeah.
actually, I don't know if you had paid 60 quid, would you have loved it so much?
Yeah,
That is
that's
the thing. Is
yeah.
it because I bought it for cheaps?
And because you were expecting
I think I got it on
nothing
PS
from
Plus.
You know?
Did you?
Yeah, it was on PS Plus. I
Oh,
think.
I think that came out a couple of months later. And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
God damn it! It's
So-
one of those moments. But that was a game where I was like, oh look, I'm driving around, I'm seeing Gastown, and I see this Scrotus and everything. So then when I went and saw the
Without
the
context,
villain,
that's fucking hilarious.
Biggest, biggest.
Biggest
that's the name of the antagonist. Is Scrotus. Fucking hilarious.
Scrotus
And
erectus, is that his full name?
I think it's Scrotus Erectus. Yeah. No, isn't Erectus his brother?
Oh,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
Erectus
it
is
is.
his brother, from
Sorry, yeah.
Fury Road. And then
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
fighting
I'm
all the
such
mad
an
boys
idiot. Yeah.
and everything. God's sake, Chris. Keep
Yeah.
up the names. And then the other game where I think for the entirety of the advertisement this game, I was like, don't I got look shit, stupid. It's on Xbox anyway, it's crap. For the whole
Yeah.
time, and then Chris gave me the Xbox. I played the start and I was like, oh, this is actually shit there. And then I just went, I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I just kept playing Starfield.
Wow.
And then I was
There
just,
it is.
yeah, it's actually not a bad game. It's
This is the
yeah,
best game you've played on the Xbox Series X so far.
nothing is going to beat the Gears games.
So, okay, sorry. Outside of the Gears games.
Eh,
Yes.
yeah, I haven't really played anything. Actually, Rise was actually pretty fucking good.
Oh, look, it was only a joke. Say yes or no and move on. God damn it.
No. What do you mean by
I,
that?
I will be interested to get your full take on Starfield when you finish it, actually, because I know you're definitely probably going to finish it. But
Probably.
Yeah,
I will be interested to, because it's that's one of those games that I was, let's say, expecting to really really love, and it just kind of fell flat for me. And
That'd be one that'd be in
I
my
want to like
disappointed
it.
list.
I
Yeah.
want to like it, you know.
Here's the thing. All right, here's the thing I found with Starfield. It starts off really shit,
Agree.
Yes. Yes.
really
Correct.
bad. In fact, so far the main story is meh.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine, but the faction missions, like Chris was telling me, steal something and get caught.
That's the best thing I was doing in Starfield, yeah.
Right,
Steal
I haven't
get caught.
finished that quest,
Yeah, but it's good.
but that's a really cool quest, right?
Yeah.
Then I joined a people known as the UC Vanguard, and I did their first mission. And it's like I walked onto the set of Alien,
Oh, cool.
right? Then I joined the group known as the Trackers Alliance. I did the first mission of that, and you're in a space station, but there's no gravity. So you're just floating around the whole thing. When you're shooting your gun, the recoil is pushing you back and everything. And it's like a nice little balance there. So it's just like actually everything else in the universe is definitely seems so far more
It's
interesting.
really
than the main
weird that they
story.
managed to make better stories in the side quests than they do in the main quest.
It is very weird. But one thing about it, if you don't like building,
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling Elder Scrolls 6 is going to have building in it because Fallout 4 so far has it.
Yeah.
Then they improved on it.
This is why
Starfield.
I'm not on. This is why I'm not really overly looking forward to the next Elder Scrolls, because I think that you can see the trajectory that they're on, and I'm not liking it. So
You're probably going to have to build.
yeah, well, it's like
customize-
it's not that building is bad. It's just that they put so much effort into that the rest of the game suffers. I don't mind building, like
Yeah.
it's grand, like but just don't make it the main thing.
Now, customizing the ship is pretty cool because you don't have to. Because when you're building modifications for your weapons or your suits or building your outposts, you always need materials. But for your ship, you don't. You just need credits. You just need to buy the upgrade and you attach wherever you want. And so, actually building out your ship, because at first I was like, this is so stupid. They gave me such a good ship. Why would I care? And then as I was recruiting more people onto my crew, I was like, this is getting really cramped now. I need to build like living quarters and stuff like that. So then I found myself building that stuff. And I built
Cool.
stuff like a crew's quarters or a captain's cabin at the top. So I have to climb a ladder to get my cabin, and I find some in my bed. And I'm like, what the fuck? Get out of my bed.
Yeah, honestly,
What if
I'm very much looking forward to getting your full breakdown of the game when you finish it.
And what I've heard as well, and this was one of the reasons I wanted to push on, but I just wasn't into it enough to keep going, especially at a time where there was other games that came out that I was more interested in. But what I've heard is that the game really starts in New Game Plus.
Oh shit! Okay.
They've said apparently it does something really interesting, and that New Game Plus is a whole different experience. I don't know what that means or what the context of that is, which is
weird.
why I was like, I need to see the ending to see what that means. But I just maybe one day I will when there's like absolutely nothing to play. But to be honest, there's such good games that keep coming out, and I'm having such a good time with that. Starfield just didn't grasp me that way. But Eric, of those three, then which one do you think surprised you the most?
Right. So the problem with Starfield was I think I was just very meh. I don't want to like it.
Yeah,
So it's definitely between Mad Max and probably Spec Ops: The Line.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. It's a good one. It's a good
Mm.
shout. Adam, what is the most pleasantly surprised you've been by a game?
It was Eric rocking home with Uncharted Drake's Fortune.
Hey! Yeah, this I do remember around that time that me and Eric were excited for that game based on the trailers.
Yeah,
And I know that you were like, guys, that looks shit.
it did look shit. It looked
Yeah,
shit. Yeah, I didn't understand necessarily the appeal of it.
right.
I think you just struck lucky there though, because I think that trailer did look shit.
The
I
trailers,
don't
I
know
think,
what it
were
was.
showing much older quality, and it
Oh yeah,
wasn't,
yeah,
and like,
yeah.
and no, like the game didn't look like the next big thing,
Mhm.
but I just think it had this adventure quality that maybe me and Eric were like, oh, that looks like a fun game. 'Cause I
Yeah.
actually don't know what grabbed us either at that time. Maybe it was that we were
I think you were
watching a
just
lot of.
looking for an Indiana Jones game. I think is what you were.
Possibly, maybe we were watching
Probably.
maybe we were watching National Treasure and like movies like that at the time,
Yeah.
and just being like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I've treasure hunting. That looks fun," that kind of thing.
Well, I think it was also just the quality. It definitely wouldn't have been the gameplay. It definitely would have been the cinematics in
Yeah, but they
it.
weren't really showing that in the trailers. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like I'm so interested that you gravitated towards it because those early previews were really really shit, and
Right.
I think and even the cover art is awful. It looks like
Well, I was really young. I barely cared about cover art.
no,
There was a s-
I know,
There was no, hold on. There was a skull and a shotgun on the cover. Like, what young boy doesn't
No,
think
that's
that's
not.
fucking
That's
cool?
that's special edition. No,
Yeah,
no, no.
sorry.
it was just him leaping over a
normal
log,
one.
Oh, it's him
It's just-
leaping over a log. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
and it just kind of looked like the real kind of not not a copy of a game, but you know those type of games where it's like, oh, that's so clearly trying to be that,
a
or
clone of something else. Or yeah.
It just didn't look as polished as the way.
And
the
who
series
knew
went.
that they would become the definitive kind of
Man,
developers going
I
forward?
was
You know what I mean?
fucking so surprised, and I think it was it was quite early on too. I think the bit that I saw, Eric was playing it, so I walked in, and
That's pretty good.
Oh, that looks pretty good, actually.
it was the scene where they were ditching Elena on the boat. I think.
Isn't that
I think-
also the bit that hooked Pagan?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was that one scene. That was the pitch, right? For me, that was like, oh yeah, like okay, I'm all in. Let's cast them. Let's go. And and that just became such an important series. That replaced Metal Gear then as the game to stick with PlayStation for me.
Yeah, from that generation. Yeah.
And it was just the whole series became so like, I mean, our title of our podcast is kind of inspired off of the fourth one. So it's like, I'm glad I walked in on that day.
Let me tell you, there's a lot of days Adam walked in on Eric, and that's the.
Yeah.
That was a day he was happy to walk in.
So damn, that looks pretty good. I'll give that a go.
Yeah.
Games.
What
We're
a
talking about
what
games.
a, what a series!
your
What
mind
a
out of the gutter.
series! Yeah, fuck off, guys. Once again, you guys have the better answers than me, because I think, like, if I was to tell people, oh yeah, if you haven't played any of these games and you're wondering about them, yes, go play Uncharted. That's the best answer. And yes, go play.
Like I had 3 and it was Uncharted, Spec Ops, and Mad Max.
Oh, there you go.
All 3 of 4 games that Eric was
And
playing.
go play those two, and maybe jump into Starfield. Like I don't know if you're maybe someone who's already played it or not.
If you
but-
don't like Fallout, don't, because it is just Fallout in space. I will say that.
Mm.
Just-
For
just-
me,
That's
the most pleasantly surprised I've ever been by a game that I can think of is Guardians of the Galaxy. Because
yeah.
in the entire lead up to that game, I was like, well, that looks like shit. And I was like, well, that's going to be shit. And they were like, and it releases in like 2 months. And I was like, well, that you might as well write that game fucking off. And I'm pretty sure on this podcast I was shitting on it really before it came out, and then it came out to shockingly positive reviews, and I was like, oh, hold on, like something's amiss. And then people I knew played it, and they said, no, it's really good. It's actually like really good. And I was looking at the review, I was looking at all the footage and going, it still looks crap to me. I don't know how could it be good? And I don't know why, but I just decided, no, I need to find out for myself, and bought it, played it the whole way through, and really, really enjoyed it. I don't like think it's like one of the most amazing games ever or anything like that. It didn't like change my world that way or whatever. But I'll put it this way, if there's a Guardians 2, I'd get it and I'd play it. I found the characters really endearing. I really liked the performances. The story surprised me so much. Like it was way more than I was expecting. It turned out the game is more like a Final Fantasy adventure than it is like an Avengers game, which is what I thought it was going to be. And the combat became way like it the beginning doesn't do it justice because when you get into it like the combat gets way more engaging and way more like a Final Fantasy game where you're issuing commands to the characters as they're engaging in the combat and it's, you know, it's got all the boss fights and stuff. And yeah, it was just such a surprising game that looked terrible. No part of it looked good to me at all.
But there was
And
an
yet when it
early
fit,
access, wasn't there? Like I remember playing a bit, and you're playing as Rocket, I think, or you're playing
there was a
as
demo, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
There was a
Like
demo.
that played crap. Like I played that and went, no, this
Yeah, yeah.
this is shit.
No, you're right. The start is not good. Like the start isn't good, and I was like, I can't believe I listened to people. Like, what the hell is this? Is this Final Fantasy 12 all over again? And it does hit a point, and it gets real good. It gets really really good. I'm not saying now that this is one where I'd go, yeah, like Uncharted is one where I could say universally play that game.
Right.
Guardians is not one where I would say, like, I don't think you would enjoy it, Adam. Let me
Okay.
put it that way. So I'm not saying after this, now go play that and you missed it. I'm saying that I was pleasantly surprised and I would agree with the people who said it was actually really good. Who also all, I think, said, like, I think all the reviewers were also saying, I thought this was going to be crap. And I found myself really enjoying it by the end of it. And also found it way more emotionally resonant than ever thought it was going to be. Like it's a better Guardian story than the movies probably. Like it's really fucking good. But it's obviously taken some inspiration from those
Sure.
movies
Yep.
too. And there's an element of Uncanny Valley where you're like, oh, he kind of looks like him without looking like him, and that's kind of weird. But you know, at the same time, it's like they are super popular now, and you know they've been defined in that way. And if you don't do that, maybe it would just look like you're trying your best not to be that. And sometimes it's like you
Yeah.
just have to lean into it a little bit. So yeah, Guardians would be my pick for game that pleasantly surprised me based on the fact that I really wrote it off
Yeah,
in
because I
any
think
of the marketing or lead up to it.
you now this is not like a case with Adam where I just walked in on you and went, "Oh, that looks pretty good," and you were like, "Yeah, it is," and I decided to play it. But you were telling me that it's actually really good, and you gave it a loan to me. Then I played it. I think all three of us were on the same page, which is this looked shite. I think we were shitting on it every time we saw it,
Mhm.
or just didn't mention it because we're just like, "This doesn't look good." Yeah, actually, really, I think the part that falls off the most is the very, 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 very end.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
to
yeah,
me the part is actually probably the weakest part.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
probably not too good to say, but that's just because they kind of shoehorn in a moment that just kind of nearly doesn't need to be there. But the rest of the story is so cool. I found myself very invested. I was a bit kind of like, are these genuinely real locations and real characters from the Guardians of the Galaxy universe that like I want to now know more about these? It's almost the equivalent, not as good as the Arkham games,
No,
but
sure not.
you know when they introduce these characters, you're like, I don't know who the fuck they are, but then you're like, God, they're really cool, and I want to see them now. Like I want to see Hugo Strange on the big screen or something.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Because so they kind of did that where it's like I'm actually very now intrigued by the Guardians Galaxy universe
yeah,
because of this game. Like the movies did a good job, but this one obviously just added that more depth of characters and had new villains and stuff. I love Cosmo. Cosmo the talking dog. He was awesome.
love Cosmo. He's great. Um, but yeah, I suppose that probably wraps it up for this particular topic. But we want to hear from other people. Like, have you played any of those games, first of all? Did you feel the same way where you're like not expecting much and then pleasantly surprised? Or is there another game that you think, you know, would fit that topic for you? Like, was there a game that you were like, I had no interest in this game, then tried it, and then it absolutely surprised me, blew me away? Do let us know, because maybe there's games out there that we also have already written off, like, nah, that doesn't look like it's for me, and then maybe you're like, no, no, honestly, give it a go. It's way better than you thought. Then it gives us a chance to check out new games. And then also, with the other stuff that we talked about, what's the most disappointed you've ever been by a game? in the lead up to a game where you were excited for it and then it really let you down for whatever personal reasons you had? And what is the worst game you think you have ever played, based on your own metrics? We want to know. Guys, if you've been watching this YouTube, make sure you jump down into the comments to share your take on all those topics. And if you enjoyed this episode, why not give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell for all future episodes. And to those who listen to us on audio platforms, you can also touch base on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and X at The Brothers Take. Again, to give your take on the worst games you've ever played, the most disappointing games you've ever played, and the most pleasantly surprising games you've ever played. Thank you so much for checking out this week's episode. We will be back to talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And just as a bonus, I have a game that answers all three of these at once.
Wow, what is it?
It is the worst game I've ever played, the most disappointed I've been in a game, and most pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
Doki Doki Literature Club.
Just Monica.